Wish I were down on some blue bayou with a bamboo pole stuck in the sand. But the road I'm on don't seem to go. Early in the game, I decided this was a wonderful place, and I would do everything in my power to keep it like it is. Wish I enjoyed. There are powers that be that are much greater than me. But I kind of promised Dr. Stanton that I would try and have his back after he was gone. And I'm doing pretty good. I just dream and keep on being the way I am.
This is the island of Santa Cruz. It lies in the Pacific, only a few miles from one of the most densely populated areas in the United States. Its 62,000 acres of peaks and valleys stretch for 21 miles, making it the largest of the 8 Channel Islands.
Santa Cruz Island is said to have received its name in 1769 during the expedition of Gaspar de Portola. The Spanish sailed out to the island, and after a ritual exchange of gifts with the Chumash elders, it was discovered that they had left behind a wooden staff topped by an iron cross. For the Chumash, iron was highly prized. Nevertheless, they rowed out in their tomals the next day to return the staff. This so impressed the Spanish that they decided that this would be a good name for the island of the Holy Cross. My great-grandfather, Justinian Kerr, as a director of the French Savings Bank, became interested in one of their chief investments, the Santa Cruz Island Company. Justinian Kerr visited Santa Cruz Island for the first time and was so struck by the possibilities that he began a 20-year building program to create his vision of a California ranch that would combine sheep, wool, cattle, and wine.
At the top of his wine production, he had over 200 acres planted here on the island. The biggest year of production was 95,000 gallons.
Perhaps the capstone was a small family chapel located in a corner of the vineyard.
The pastoral community blossomed quietly for a time, then fell victim to a rapidly changing world, which included the noble experiment, prohibition, and the Depression.
In the years immediately following Justinian Kerr's death, his children tried to carry on the successful enterprise. As the siblings worked together, they uncovered certain differences they had.
The litigation lasted 20 years.
And the costs that they had to bear because of the litigation required that they put it up for sale. It took them 5 years to find a buyer, and they finally found one, the Los Angeles oil man and industrialist Edwin Stanton.
Well, when Stanton took over in 1937, one of the first things he decided was that he didn't want to be in the wine business. And he ended up draining the vats. He said that was a tough day for the workers to see the wine drain down the road.
I had just graduated from UCSB in anthropology, and my major professor asked me to participate in an archaeological dig. I was down at the ranch, and this diminutive man came walking out of his office, and he said, "You, there, come here, come in, sit." And I thought, oh my, that's the man who owns the island. That's Kerry Stanton.
And there's quite a mythology about him. He was very standoffish. You know, he ran this island like a little kingdom.
I always got along with Kerry. I was well aware that he was pretty volatile.
Well, Kerry Stanton was one of the greatest characters I've ever met. He was the Damon Runyon character, if you wanted to make an application.
He was meticulously Victorian, very proper, and attention to detail. Wool just straight across.
He told me he had a collection of rare books and art, and I said, may I catalog it for you? That worked into my becoming his personal assistant for the next 17 years. He was graduated from Stanford. He was a medical doctor, a pathologist. He dealt with the dead, not the living.
When was it that you decided to give up an active participation in medicine and make your life on this island?
I returned here in 1957. I am the only surviving child of my parents.
He was the second son born to Edwin and Evelyn Stanton, and his older brother was killed in World War II. And it was, in fact, his older brother who was expected to be the heir to the island. It was my son, the rancher, my son, the doctor. Well, the doctor ended up inheriting the island.
And I felt it was very important that someone be here to take care of the island, protect the island, and also, I must say, I am very fond of the life. I love living on the island.
It wasn't, you know, here's this big island that I own. He was a hands-on, even though he was the last person you would mistake for a cattle rancher.
So Cary transferred his knowledge of medicine to doctoring the cattle, was at all of the roundups. He administered all of the orders for the branding and the ear marking.
You didn't dare tell him you were going to go on a trip someplace and you needed to have some kind of a vaccination, because the next minute he'd be right there with his needle in his hand saying, bend over and drop your trousers.
Legend has it he was quite the eccentric, threw fabulous parties out on the islands.
There have been quite a few guests that would come out and have dinner at the ranch. Joe Walsh was one of them. Richard Diebenkorn, one of the most famous California artists.
My father and Cary met at a fraternity at Stanford University in the early 1940s, and I think became friends right away and were then lifelong friends. Then there was this serendipity. Cary Stanton, on the one hand, had this unbelievable, extraordinary island, and my father turned out to have quite a remarkable career as an artist and a painter. The tradition that he was in was pretty much that the individual painting or drawing was a standalone thing in and of itself. And this is not true of the works on the island. They form a body of work that document a friendship.
I got fascinated with the fact that there was, first of all, a chapel on the island. Nobody knew that. So I wrote a letter and I asked him, could I come out sometime to the island and say Mass in the chapel? And there was no answer.
Stanton was a little put off in the initial approach.
The lady knocked on the door during one of the classes. She says, there's a man on the phone who has to talk to you right now. And I said, good morning, Father Weber speaking. Stanton here. I'm going to ask you a question, Father. What do you want to say Mass on my island for? After about 10 minutes, he said, all right, you can come out on the island. You come on the 3rd of May. And I said, 3rd of May. Yes, aren't you a Catholic? And I said, of course I am. He said, that's the Feast of the Holy Cross, Santa Cruz. You can come out on the 3rd of May. I didn't even say goodbye, I slammed up the phone. The conversation was finished. If you've been out there by plane, you land on a fire break going up the side of a mountain. Sitting in a Jeep, over the side was Cary Stanton. We introduced ourselves. Immediately, our chemistry was very close. We just sort of, I think, at least I did, I thought I'm going to like this guy with all of his foibles, and he had foibles.
Those older days and genteel ways were preserved by Stanton in his island seclusion.
8:15 or so, he would ring the bell. The maid or butler would come in,
and he told me, Marla, when you're on an island, it could be so easy to become a slob.
He always dressed for dinner, and every Sunday he devoted 4 hours to winding his clocks.
He would walk around the house with the radio beeping Greenwich time, and he lived in an atmosphere of ticking, chiming clocks.
One of my friends owned a music store in Santa Barbara. My friend's girlfriend was Marla.
And I invited Joe to come to Santa Cruz Island with me. And I introduced them to Cary Stanton.
When I first met Joe, he was still heavily involved in kind of the wild, crazy rock and roll world, you know, altered states of mind and drinking and whatever.
And I warned Joe, no crazy rock and roll hippie clothes, that he had to be on good behavior.
There was a testing period If he didn't have any use for somebody, they didn't get invited to the island. And so I had to try out to see if I passed the island test.
And I should add that this was coat and tie, dress for dinner. I was expected to wear stockings, heels, and a dress on this remote, rugged island west of the West.
Then after dinner, back in here for a half hour of pleasant chatting, and then lights out. And by 9:30, the island went dark, and everybody was in bed because, unbeknownst to me, we got up at 5. He threw Barry Goldwater off the island, so I did pretty good. I got to stay the evening.
Who knows why people clicked? I think Carrie was fascinated with the fact that this man was a famous musician. Carrie only knew about the opera and the theater.
And over a period of time, I got to know him and the way he did things. And he and Henry Duffield, who were the ranch manager, felt comfortable around me, and I got invited back a lot and was kind of carefully taught stuff about the island and how it was run and what it likes.
Well, I think it's a beautiful place, and I've always been interested in land management and improving land all the time and preserving it as it is.
He wanted to do one thing in life, and he did it very well. He wanted to preserve the island in the way it was when he took it over.
The beaches are the dirtiest place on this island. I know an awful lot of yachtsmen, and I'm appalled that they consider the ocean a garbage pail.
He pulled into a cove and found a very large bag of trash. He went through it. Rotten food, coffee grounds, banana peels, and mail. He got the name and address. He flew that hefty bag of trash off the island. He walked into the yacht broker's office, took the hefty bag of trash.
Very politely dumped it on top of the broker's desk and said, "I believe you left this on my island."
There's something about the island that it's so special that people just have such a passion for it. And one of those passions is the passion to control and to dominate it. There's a passion to preserve it.
Dr. Stanton at one point started to think about life after Dr. Stanton and what would happen to Santa Cruz Island.
He turned down a number of very lucrative offers to turn the island into a Disneyland or something like that.
The oil companies offered him a blank check. A blank check, I mean, fill in the amount. We don't care. And he said, nah, I'd rather have the island. He wanted it not to change.
In the mid-1970s, Carrie Stanton approached the Nature Conservancy to purchase and to protect Santa Cruz Island.
Well, it's a very complicated agreement, but assuming that the Conservancy raises the money to exercise its option, they will take title to approximately 12,000 acres on the north side of the island and have a conservation easement over the remainder of this ranch.
When I found that's what he wanted to do, I arranged for the Eagles to do a benefit concert, and a bunch of donors matched that, and it was a sizable amount of money, much to the donors' dismay.
Joe invited Carrie to a concert at the Forum, and his worst fears were realized as 17,000 people started stomping their feet.
He really thought he was going to die. And it was just a regular concert. The guy next to him handed him a big joint, and it was so loud he had Kleenex sticking out of his ears, so he looked like a madman.
After all of the encores, the car doors were opened. We got in. Several girls broke through the tape, got onto the hood of the car, lifted their shirts, pressed their naked bodies against the windshield, and Joe, he sank down and he looked over at Carrie and he said, "I'm sorry." And Carrie said, "This is your world
He told that story from then on. About the night he almost died at an Eagles concert. So I guess he liked it.
By 1978, the Nature Conservancy had purchased 90% of Santa Cruz Island for roughly $2.5 million.
I don't know what it was worth, but he didn't care about the money. He wanted to preserve the island.
It's particularly rewarding to see little children come out here who've never been to a place like this, and they find out that it isn't all pavement and making money. There's a whole lot of stuff that is already here that I guess you could say God gave us, that's very easy to destroy, but somewhat more difficult to keep.
I came to realize what this is and what a wonderful place it is. The one thing that I latched onto that I can put my arms around and wrap my mind around is the well-being of this island. And so I decided that's what I would do. That was my one thing.
I think our basic viewpoint about the island is what holds us together. The island is unique. Even among the islands, it's unique. I think that's the bond that I have with Joe, and perhaps it's the same way with you.
This year we commemorate, and it's our 47th celebration of this annual Mass. It's a tradition that was started by Carrie Stanton in 1968.
I couldn't believe it, because I just had such a good time out there. I thought, golly, I get to go back every year, and I did. I went back for 44 years.
It's just mutated into what it is. All of the old family of the island, friends of Stanton, the Cairns, anybody who has anything to do with the island, we get them out here once a year. And it's a tradition, and it's what I'm all about. Nothing changes. And this is my 27th year.
When the Eagles each year go to make up their schedule, what comes first? Santa Cruz Island.
You bet. I don't. Have you ever heard an Eagles song? Maybe once.
Are you kidding? California Hotel. I remember that. The only thing I remember, California Hotel. There's the Hotel California.
Hotel California.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. For the first couple of years to my senior, we hadn't really gotten used to what we were doing. We were kind of winging it. If the priest starts flapping at the mouth, we start playing something because it's hot out there. Bang this out real quick. We do have two other relics out there, Carrie and Henry. I used to play for them in the living room, and I would pour my heart out to them, and Henry would say, "Play something we like." It's one of my main things, spiritually. If there is a God, he hangs out on this island a lot. The Chumash creation myth is that life started here. And God made a rainbow, and man walked to the mainland. It's an honor and a privilege that this came into my life. It's part of my awareness that is extremely grounding. So spiritually, it's a driving force. I come here a lot in my head, in times of mental turmoil. I just come here and everything is okay.